What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the SEQTEK'S podcast. I am your host, Matt Lemke, here as always with my man, Kenn Williamson. Kenn, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Just recently been doing quite a bit of work on the house. Today I got a big load of dirt to try to regrade the area near the house to prevent some pooling water, and so it's been an adventure. I'm not the most handy person ever, more handy with the code, but it's been enjoyable and keeps me healthy. Don't have to go exercise, so it's been pretty cool.
Knowing you, I figured by now you would come up with some sort of algorithmic data that would just tell you exactly where to place the dirt, and some sort of application is just going to do this all for you. I'm actually surprised. If you guys don't know, Kenn is actually a phenomenal engineer, and I'm actually just surprised you don't have just robots running around your house at this point, with all the things I've seen you conjure up in programming. So, I figured you'd have a robot doing that for you by now, man. I'm a little disappointed.
Yeah. Well, I do a lot better on the software side. Yeah. So it's something where I probably could put my mind to it, but the reality is that with a lot of this kind of stuff, the effort I would put in to try to make something to do it for me, I could just do it myself.
Sure.
So.
No doubt. That's awesome. Yeah, it's obviously spring break week here in Oklahoma. I've got my 12-year-old nephew staying with me. And I don't have kids, this is probably my first time around a 12-year-old. And I realized it's actually really easy. You just give them some mac and cheese and some video games, and they're life is good,
Oh yeah.
And so listen, I'm sure parenting is very hard. I don't know, but I'm just kind of like it's like one of those 5-day runs where you're like, this doesn't seem all that bad, this isn't too hard. They just, literally, dude, it's just cheese. It's literally Cheetos, mac and cheese, and some video games, man. It's been awesome.
Yeah. Well, my experience has been that the aunt-uncle gig is the best one, because you get them and you get to have some fun. But then when they start getting a little bit bored or tired or cranky, you just hand them right back to the parents, and then it's not that big of a deal. So that sounds awesome.
Yeah, I'm loving it, man. I'm loving it. And, I'm loving what we've got planned for today. So today we've got an incredible guest with us, Trevor Staub. Trevor is a senior data analyst. He's worked with several companies, really helping use data to drive companies forward and make some pretty important decisions. I mean, data is so important in today's world and in technology. So I'm excited to talk to him.
Yeah, me too. What these analysts can do with the BI tools and the ETL tools and all of these things, really driving decisions for businesses, making them be able to make informed decisions based on real world data that they're already collecting in their normal business processes. So I'm excited too. I think this is going to be really great. I'm excited to bring him on.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll have our guest Trevor with us. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. We are here with our guest Trevor. Trevor, how you doing, man?
Doing great. Excited to be here.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you. Trevor, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do?
I'm Trevor Staub. I'm the Director of Data Analytics at SEQTEK'S. I work on data analytics for different companies, doing everything from, ETL, data engineering, analytics, database design, query performance tuning, that kind of thing, bringing value out of data to our clients. And also manage the data team. We have 4 people on our team. Yeah. We're in a bunch of different industries. We do oil and gas. We just started medical, health insurance industry. And I've been in manufacturing now with a client for almost 2 years. So learning a lot about supply chain, and that is a mess. It's a crazy world.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm super excited to talk to you. I had a boss that he had this saying. He would say that when you need to make an important decision, and the decision is foggy, he would say that data is the headlights. And he said, if you turn on the headlights and it's still foggy and you don't know where to go, you just don't have enough data, and I thought that was such a great way to sum up what, just the importance of data and how data can drive decision making within companies. But let's start here, because I think data is this word that has many shapes now. Like, there's a lot of context. I think like, I'm a big sports fan, and when you say data in sports now, they think like Moneyball, right?
Yep.
I'm an NBA guy. Data is, if you take more shots from this spot instead of this spot, then you get more points, right? And so that's kind of like data in the sports world. And then data in like just the meta kind of feels like it's all just about like your personal data, privacy, all that. So data's just taking on a lot of forms. It's kind of convoluted. Let's just boil it down real quick. What is data? When we say data in technology, what do we mean?
Sure. So like you said, it means a lot to a lot of different people. If you asked 15 people, you get 15 different answers. But how I like to describe it, in just the most general basic terms for people to digest, is it's a spreadsheet. Essentially what we have managed to do with our databases is take those spreadsheets and organize them in ways that we can extract information out of them a lot more efficiently and at scale, a lot more rows than you can handle in an actual Excel spreadsheet. But the simplest way to think about it is it's just columns and rows is data. It's a spreadsheet out there that we put into a computer that can analyze that at crazy speeds.
Yeah, that's a really interesting way of thinking about it. I mean, it kind of just boils like the mythology of data down. I think like we've all opened an Excel spreadsheet, right? And when we think about data, it's really just a collection of a bunch of rows, right? Just a bunch of cells. I mean, yeah, I think that's a great answer.
Yeah. So when you talk about data and you're getting in, let's back up and start, like, when you come on to a project with a new client, and you're looking at their data, what is it that you're looking for? Like, what kind of things are you looking for in how their data's set up, or how do they have it put together in their system? Where do you start when you come on to a project with a new company?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I kind of hate this answer, but it really depends on what they're looking for out of me, I guess. At the highest level, really the information schema table. Every database has an information schema, and it'll tell you, here are all the tables, here's all the schemas, here's all the different things that define this data. But where I would really start is trying to identify, I guess, the main tables, like most companies will have like a transaction table. And so you go find the transaction table, and then you go and find the, that's usually set up as a fact table. And then you go and find that fact table's dimensions. And then you can really start going down a rabbit hole by jumping to all the different connections between that fact and these dims. And it starts to really evolve into this giant web of, I don't know, potential things. But yeah, where I'd start is the information schema table, and that will tell me this is what's in this database. And then I can go and say, oh, they have a transaction table, they have like accounts receivable table, something like that. These are the main tables that basically every business has set up, and every business is different, so it might be called something different, but you can generally go find your fact tables and know this is going to be an important piece that I'm going to use over and over again. So that's where I'd start, by identifying those important pieces and moving on from there.
So you used a couple of terminologies there, and just to clear up for anybody that's listening, you said dimensions. What do you mean in the context of data when you say dimensions?
So dimensions are attributes of a fact. So if you have a fact table that is a transaction table, here are all our transactions. Depending on, and here's another term I'm going to throw out that we might have to, the normalization of the data. If it's highly normalized, like, you can get over normalized, in my opinion, and I might get some pushback on that. But let's say it's very highly normalized and your transaction data has a dimension table for it, that is, it's the transaction date. So you'd have a whole separate table set up that just says this transaction happened on this day. And then that's not a part of the actual transaction table. So a dimension is an attribute of a fact.
So that leads me to the next one. When you say fact in the context of data, what do you mean?
That's a really hard one, actually. That's what I do, is try to find the facts out of the fact table. But it's in a more generalized sense, a fact table is, again, something like that transaction table. That's one I go back to a lot, where this is a thing that happened. And then your dimension tables will be, here are things about that thing that happened.
I think that's a great definition.
Yeah.
So a fact is something that happened, and then the dimensions are all the related data around that fact.
Yeah.
And then another word that you used is normalized. And so what does it mean for data to be normalized?
So that relationship we just talked about there is normalized data, where you have a row that says this is a thing that happened and this is a thing about that thing that happened. That is a normalized relationship, whereas a denormalized relationship is not so clean. You're going to have to you're going to have to bring together several different pieces of data to get to that level of detail.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And that's a great way of kind of breaking it all down. I mean, I think one of the things with data that I think has been really beneficial, like I think data analysts, from what I can tell, are really on the rise. I mean, a lot of programs are starting to do, like, or universities starting to do, like, boot camps and stuff to get data analysts out in the field. You see a lot of jobs coming up for data analysts. And I think a lot of that is because a lot of employers are finding value in, having somebody mining through all that content that you just talked about and saying, what are the facts? What can we extract from what we're collecting that will help us, again, drive decision-making within the business? So what, kind of just taking a high-level view, what are some of the ways that you've helped bring value to a company just using some of those things that you just talked about?
Yeah, so I'm going to go off on a tangent here a
Sure.
little bit.
Yeah, go.
For the past 2 years, like I said, I've been in manufacturing, and giant piece of extracting value from the data is just, at this point, being able to use the data. And so that's a lot of what I've been doing, is just cleaning up data so that we can actually figure out things about it. Particularly what I'm thinking about is stockouts. So how often a shelf runs out of a product. It's probably something at a high level most managers can relate to. It is impossible to do that better if you don't know that item ID that's on that shelf. So what you have to do is clean up all of the dimensions or attributes about that item so that you can get to a clean set of data and then be able to run analytics on that. So actually getting value out of the data is like seeing different pieces that are useful from the data that your company collects is the easy part. But getting it to a clean state where you can actually do analytics on that is difficult. So getting the most value out of your data first requires a large cleanup process. And the bigger the company, generally, the worse off it is. You have all of these different systems that are stacked onto each other, and things get messy really quick. So that is one thing that I have done for this client is we've cleaned up part of this process. So now our data comes in cleanly. We have clean rows that we can now run I hate this word, but algorithm on to say we need to order this product at this rate, and it needs to be on this day so that it can be shipped there and be on the shelves at this time. So a lot of that cleanup has enabled us to actually do that, because they were already doing the algorithm that I'm talking about, but it's only as good as the variables that algorithm takes. So if I have a couple holes in that data, there's nulls is what we call them, then it's no good. You're going to get a nonsense answer basically out of it, or a zero. You're going to divide by a zero. It's going to come up with an error kind of thing. So we have cleaned up that data and made it to a point where we can actually run that algorithm on a lot more items, which has enabled us to more completely, for a bunch of different items on a lot of different shelves, run our analytics so that we can say this thing needs to be ordered at this date.
So, that kind of brings me to a question that I wanted to ask. So you kind of mentioned that there's a bunch of different sources of data, and you could imagine that companies are acquiring each other. They're different systems are coming together, and now they have this similar data that are describing the same things but are subtly different, right? And some terms that I've heard a lot in the data world is data lake and data warehouse. Can you tell me what a data lake and a data warehouse is, and what's the difference, and have you used any of those in what you're doing?
Sure. Yeah, and I really do more of data warehousing right now. And just at the highest general terms, a data warehouse is what you're saying, what you said essentially there is amalgamation of a bunch of different systems into a single database. And where that is something that you'll end up using a lot, you can run reporting on it, get all types of information out of it. Whereas a data lake is more something where you're going to store vast amounts of data, and you might not try to use that all the time. That's just, we have all this data and we need to store this somewhere, and that's kind of generally what it's more set up for. Now, they are pretty interchangeable, those terms, in my opinion, but generally that's a data warehouse is more transactional, whereas a data lake is going to be more storage.
Yeah, so the data warehouse is more structured.
Yeah.
And the data lake is just we just need to we think we need to save all this stuff. Let's just all dump it in here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing that I took from what you just were talking about is really it comes down to, it sounds like your data analyst is going to be best equipped by just what the quality of data that you're collecting. Or maybe even just the amount of data that you're collecting, right? Because I think one thing that we see all the time in businesses, and to be honest, I've even ran into this a little bit when I was getting started as an engineer, where, it was like, hey, make sure we save X, into the database, right? And it's like, well, like, who's going to use this, right? Like, why do we need to save X? Like, it seems so obsolete, right? And I think a lot of businesses would think that way. You're talking about, stuff on the shelf. Like, I don't think we really need to track quantity, like, or whatever, right? And that's pretty rudimentary. Most businesses would track quantity. But in a broad spectrum, it's like sometimes I think when it comes to data, it really comes down to, are you capturing the right valuable content that can be extracted and used to drive all that decision making, right?
Yeah, so this is something we kind of went over before the show, in that maybe, in my opinion, it's best to capture as much as you can, every piece that you can, and then do the filtering to sort through that to see what is valuable out of it. Because there's been a lot of situations where there are just, I've worked for companies that have hundreds of tables and 90% of them are all junk.
Yeah.
And why are we keeping all this? We don't need all this stuff. But, it comes like a year later, we find out, oh, this one particular table has this ID we need with this attribute that we've been after, trying to add this certain thing to, this report. And if I didn't have that, I can't make the join to now add this new thing onto it. So hoovering up everything is more work in the front end, but down the road somebody's going to ask for something out of that table that we didn't need, but now we do, and we need it yesterday, kind of thing.
Yeah, because we were, you were talking about before the show, we were just kind of talking, and in a obviously in a good way, just kind of disagreeing on that, right? Because I was saying from the engineering standpoint, it's like we want to not collect data. Like, it's just more work, Yeah. Because, we got to build those tables and we got to go put all that in the database and update it, And so it can seem very obsolete from an engineering perspective to grab all that data, but you just see, from your seat, you're going to see it so much differently, and you see the value in all of that, right? And so it's just kind of interesting to see some of that conflict play out,
Yeah, and I feel like it's one that my people lose a lot because
Sure.
you're right in that a lot of the times there is no value there. Like it is just an extra wasted step for no reason. But again, I've ran into it so many times where down the line somebody's going to ask for that little bit that one table, obscure table had, that we need this join to add that in there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm with you. I too feel like sometimes we overgather, but it is something where we can probably find value in a lot of the things, and especially doing analytics down the road. You don't necessarily know what a particular business user is going to want to look at, how they're going to want to look at it. So yeah. I completely agree. So something else that I wanted to ask you, there's so many terms that float around with data. And one that you've mentioned a couple of times, and that I think I have a handle on it, but ETL. What does it mean to do ETL, or how does that work? And can you give us like an example of when you would want to do that?
Sure. Extract, transform, load is ETL. And so those are three fancy words, but it means moving this piece of data from A to B.
Oh, okay.
Is all it really comes down to. And so there are a lot of different ways to do that. I'm kind of old school in that I prefer to just write the SQL to let it happen. But one of the big tools that's used out there is SSIS.
Sure.
So that's typically when you hear ETL, you're going to be diving into SSIS, which is SQL Server Integration Studio. And what it does is it's kind of like a GUI for writing SQL to move pieces of data around. Now, I'm sure the SSIS people out there are going to rip my head off because you can do a lot of things with it. You have plugins to, all kinds of different programming languages and libraries and kinds of things. So it is a powerful tool. But yeah, ETL is moving a piece of data from A to B, doing it reliably. Usually it's like a scheduled type of thing. So this is something that's going to happen at a regular interval. And that's when your ETL tools are going to be more helpful than just doing the way I like to do it.
Yeah. Well, but what is it like? Can you give an example of why people do this?
Yeah. So really, again, it's more of that scheduled movement of data. Like one thing in particular at the company I'm working at now, they have a side of their business that's called vending. So they where they sell items out of, and then they have another big part of their business that's all contained within their CRM. And so we have a ETL process set up to take data out of that vending side of the business and move it over to their CRM. And so that's something every business manager is going to be familiar with, of integrating different pieces of data into their CRM. Everybody grabs something from somewhere, puts it in their Salesforce. So that's an example of doing ETL. Of, all right, we have this whole separate system outside of Salesforce. Let's conjure up a ETL process so that we can regularly grab that new data that's generated in that other system and move it into the CRM.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. And okay, so let's look at data kind of, I guess, more from like the practical. Like, so if you ask my wife right now, who is a nurse, what she thinks when she hears the word data, because I actually asked her yesterday, she literally immediately went to privacy. Like data, my privacy, right? And so, we talked a little bit about the reason why within a business you want to collect a lot of data. but we also know there's a lot of personal data that's getting collected out there, right? Like, not gonna say which one, but I opened up an app not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, and all of a sudden I noticed that they're tracking my location. I was like, this app doesn't need my location for anything that I'm doing within this app, right? And so are we, I mean, let's just kind of zoom out from like a meta, like, are we collecting too much data right now? I mean, what are your thoughts?
It's definitely not sustainable because everything is being captured. So, I mean, the server farms, that Google has, don't even know about 10% of them, I'm sure. So, in that aspect of, should we literally be capturing every aspect of every American citizen's life? I definitely disagree with that. Yeah, we are capturing too much of that. But I mean, if I was an engineer at Google, I would definitely disagree with that statement because they have a lot of value they can generate out of capturing where you are at 2:00. Now they can, pinpoint that ad to say, oh, you were here at 2:00, you might enjoy this restaurant. And now you get pushed that's a tailored ad, so now they get paid more when you see it, when you're Googling something and that pops up. Yep.
So would you say, okay, so I own a business, and in my business, right now I employ 2 full-time data analysts. Would your recommendation be when I'm going to talk to my data analysts, I'm saying, hey, we want as much data within the company as possible. We want to collect, what we can at all times. That's kind of where you kind of think, from a business perspective, you think that would be valuable.
Yes, generally, yeah. Again, it depends on the business and what they're doing.
Right.
You can definitely get useless junk, but I think to start off with, you should capture that. And as you're sifting through all of the things, you can, you don't need to literally hang on to everything. So yeah, I would say capture everything and then let your analyst go through that and filter out what's important and not.
Yeah, that sounds pretty good. And I guess probably when you're gathering all that data, you want it to be labeled well so that it's not just random information, but we know that, it's from this time, this person, etc. Yeah. And but it kind of leads me into my next question that I wanted to talk to you about, which is BI. This is something that you hear about on all sorts of projects, and I personally love BI because when you're talking about these tools that can look at these data and visualize it, that's less work for me because they want to see it, and if I don't have to be the one to write all the queries and come up with views and things like that. But I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. I hear Power BI, I hear Tableau. Do you have a preference? And just know that you're going to anger the other half, right?
Sure. And if you would have asked me 2 years ago, I would have said Tableau.
Yeah.
For the past 2 years, I've been in a Power BI environment, and they really have been picking up steam and doing a lot of things better. They've been updating very well, and again, I'm probably biased because I have been using it for the past 2 years every day. But I still do actually use Tableau for some of our other projects, but not as heavily. I'm not involved in it personally, but I'd go Power BI.
Okay, so and then backing up a little bit, can you talk a little bit about what these tools do and how they're used and what your experience has been with adding value to your customers using them?
Yeah, so I mean, you kind of hinted at it a little bit, but part of it is now you don't have to write a complicated like R statement or something like, or that's like an older one, but you don't have to you can drag a piece of, a pill was what they're called in Tableau, or a column in Power BI, drag it onto the drag and drop and create a graph in 30 seconds, whereas before that might have taken all day to, programmatically build that out. But now it's just simple. Move this piece here, boom, we have a graph. And so there's a lot of that, and you can identify trends quickly with that you couldn't do as well if you're just writing the queries out in SQL. part of that is also part of using BI tools is also just as a way to let your clients, your employees access data more easily. So I've been using it for that a lot too. You can run your filters, slice down your data to what is important to you, and then click the button, export it, get it in Excel, and then off you go doing your thing. That's the workflow that most companies employ. So you can find trends in data a lot faster with a BI tool, which I do too. Like you can spot the hole in the data. Here's where it is. Much more easily with throwing it in Power BI real quick than if you're just looking at thousands of lines in your results section from your database. But so there's the actual. It helps in data analytics and like digging through your data to understand it for the actual developer. It helps get that data out to all your employees and also as a distribution tool so they can download it in a spreadsheet and go off and do whatever it is they're doing.
Yeah, I think that's a really good explanation, because I think for so many people, we're all like we're visual, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what I love about Tableau and Power BI. Basically, what he's talking about is it's the ability to take that data we were just talking about that we've extracted and just put it in a simple chart. Yeah. And so let's say I own a grocery store and I have these 5 products on the shelf, and I just want a chart that tells me which product I run low on the most. Mm-hmm. Well, I can just easily see a little graph chart that'll tell me, how many days before I'm going to run out of that product statistically, which is derived straight from the data. And so, those tools are incredibly helpful. They're becoming far more powerful. I've only ever used Tableau. Mm-hmm. Still, as an engineer, I'm just going to say that your guys' tools are so confusing, but we'll leave that for another time. But no, you guys, they're amazing. They really are. I just don't know how to use them. That's really what it is. But there's
YouTube out there.
Yeah, there's YouTube. So, I YouTube a lot when I have to get in there. I'm like, what am I looking at? That's all it takes. Yeah, and so those are really powerful tools and some really powerful stuff. And so I guess, my final question for you is I would just love, again, taking the position of like I'm a business owner, right? Mm-hmm. And I own a grocery store, and I'm still on the fence. I own a store and we have products, but, I'm just kind of going about my daily life. Why do I need a data analytics person? Why should I go and get somebody to sort through my data?
I think the best way to answer that is that first time you run out of that product and somebody is mad and they're in your face yelling and why don't you have the White Claw that I want? If you have good data analytics on that, you're going to run into that situation less. So consistency, reliability, and that example is somewhat limited because you can also use it for all kinds of other things that you might not see off the bat. Like right now we're just talking about keeping the stock shelved for this grocery store, but what if you're also capturing data about how often people are coming in and out of the store, or what times they're coming in and out of the store, and maybe you get somebody out on the corner swinging a sign or something at 2 p.m. on Wednesdays because the store down the street there's a dance class that gets out, and now you got this different. And that's just kind of a random example.
No, but it's good. Yeah, keep going.
So, it'll help you keep that thing stocked. Your White Claw. No more angry wine moms coming at you. But B, it's going to produce things that you did not foresee. And that's kind of the role of a data analyst, is to come up with predictions and trends and that kind of thing.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. And I guess my last question is going to be about the job. What would you say to someone that is looking at data, looking at being a data analyst or a data engineer, and what's the pathway forward? What are some of the pitfalls? What kind of personality would you want to have if you were thinking about this? Just if you wouldn't mind, talk a little bit about some advice to someone that's looking at data as a career.
Yeah. So the type of personality, I'll start there. It is an engineering type of thing, so you have to be a tinkerer. And it can be the most frustrating thing on earth. And I'm sure I'm biased, but data in particular can just be so frustrating. Because you're the type of person that will excel as a data analyst is somebody who doesn't mind throwing away an hour on something that's wasted, and then you realize, oh, I have to do it this way, and then it's right there. So that's a big part of it, is going down rabbit holes, not getting lost, and finding your way out, and staying calm, cool, and collected in that whole process, because it can be frustrating. And as far as career paths, like the best way to get a data analyst role. I went to traditional 4-year college. In my opinion, that's great, and if that's your path, get an MIS degree is what a lot of data analysts do. But we've been interviewing a lot of people, and just from those interviews, I can say people who have their experience through something like a boot camp or something like that are going to be just as well prepared as that 4-year typical degree will give you. And that might be controversial to say, but that's so I think you don't necessarily have to be a college graduate. You can go to one of those boot camps as long as you have that engineering mind. You're willing to tinker around with the data, and you're also going to want to be somebody who enjoys failing over and over and over and over, and then learning from that failure.
Sounds like a great answer.
Yeah, it really is, man. That's just the day in the life of an engineer right there. Yeah, for sure. Okay, this is a really dumb question, but when I was first trying to figure out which boot camp I wanted to go to, whether I wanted to go the software engineer path or the data path, I actually chose software engineering only because I felt like it was going to be less math. How much math do you guys actually have to do?
It varies wildly. So what I've been doing a lot of lately is, like I said, that data cleanup, and so that's no math.
Yeah.
That's just, that's more of putting puzzle pieces together is how to explain it. But if I'm coming up with that algorithm to figure out, how frequently we should order things, then it's very heavily math intensive.
Yeah.
But it's not. Again, you don't have to be some PhD mathematician to figure it out. Generally your business users will give you the formula and you have to put it together. But you don't want to be math illiterate. That would be bad. So I'd say a decent level of understanding of math.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. That's so great. And, man, this has been a great time. We have officially hit 35 minutes, and so we want to get you out of here, man, on your time. But thank you so much for joining us today, Trevor. You've been amazing. Thank you to everybody who's listening right now. We really appreciate it. We will be back in 2 weeks, and we are looking forward to seeing you guys again.
Yeah,
thanks you for having me.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
You're welcome. It was great. I really am interested in what you're talking about, and it was really nice to have an expert here. Thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll see you next time.